on more Bumbles McFumbles. Because why not? I played a bit of Smash. I don't think I ever played Ganondorf. I mostly play, what was it? Little Mac, Ike, sometimes Captain Falcon, sometimes
Ganondorf. Pretty
Snake.
bad up until Ultimate, where where you slap the right spirits on him and he fucking unmakes World of Light.
Oh. Well then.
Except Pauline. Pauline still kicks the crap out of him. If you've played Ultimate, you know what I mean. Woofy, since I'm assuming you haven't?
No, I have not played him in Ultimate.
Well, just Ultimate in general.
I played a bit of Ultimate. Why, yes.
Okay, did you play the Pauline Spirit Battle?
I don't remember. It's been a very long time.
So basically, you're on 75 meters, everyone's favorite stage.
Okay.
There is a Mario, there is a Donkey Kong. Both of them are hyper aggressive, and you have like a minute to go kill a Peach that's on the other side of the stage and actively avoiding you.
Oh, that sounds annoying.
Oh, it's horrible. Pretty much everyone just cheeses it with a staff. Basically, a sniper rifle that deals more damage the further away you are from the opponent.
But yeah, besides that point, if you ever want to catch us reacting live, that's every Sunday and every Tuesday for me. So yeah, you can hear us reacting live for once. How does that sound? Probably not the best, but you know, you'll take what you can get. So I'll say this
to watch stuff in real time.
Yeah. And if you ever want to like force me to watch something, then I don't know, give me something on my throne, I guess. I don't know. Go to the Patreon and watch some of the stuff over there. All of it's free or pretty good for $1. I won't say free because like most of the videos over there aren't free. Because I need the muns in order to survive, unfortunately.
I too need the monies in order to survive.
But yeah, if you like us well enough, go check out the Patreon. And if you can, give like a single dollar. Because if enough of you give $1, I can focus on reacting and doing other stuff for you guys. Like finally finishing my comics that I've been wanting to watch or read. There's also anime I need to watch. But anyway, that's not here but there. Some of you are probably not even listening and just waiting till I'm getting to the video.
Indeed.
Anyway.
Roll the clip.
Smash is such a fun game, right?
Wrong! Smash is not a fun game! Take it from me, Dr. Fun.
Dr. Fun.
Ganondorf, and that's my entire personality!
For as long as I can remember, ever since playing Melee on the GameCube when I still mistook the controller for a teething ring, to the Wii, to the Wii U, all the way up until the Switch where I could fit the whole controller in my mouth, I've played Smash Brothers for all of them, and I've always mained Ganondorf. Is this a brutal form of masochism? Potentially, but there's just something about Ganondorf that pulls me towards him.
Really?
It might be his overwhelming power, his sick design, or relatability, as we're both large, lumbering laughingstocks. More so than anything else, Ganondorf in Smash Brothers is known as a complete joke of a character, a far cry from the Demon King of his home series.
Really?
Ganondorf is consistently one of, if not the worst character in the game, with certain iterations in the running for the worst Smash character overall. Regardless of being terrible, he still has one of the largest cult followings of any character for that reason. He's garbage. He stinks. He couldn't take a stock off against an unplugged controller. But that just means when he does score a win, it's all the more fun. As I've matured and gotten sick of losing, I've branched out to other characters like the equally underwhelming Ridley and K. Rool, the so-so Mewtwo, and the God Emperor Pac-Man. But no matter what, I always keep Ganondorf on the docket because he's the best. Am I gonna win? No! Am I gonna piss somebody off in the process of trying? You bet! So today I wanted to go through all the way from the character's inception in Melee to his final update in Ultimate to go over what exactly makes Ganondorf so bad.
Okay.
And why that makes him the best character in the game.
Let's start. Okay, what cards are you... I'm gonna look. He's using some sort of Dark Fiend.
Dark Lord.
Inception in Melee to his final update in Ultimate.
Because there was a few cards I saw that I know.
And why that makes
one
him
of
the
them
best
is
character in the game.
to... Okay, Dark Lord. Yeah, it's all the Dark Lords. And for some reason... Oh yeah, he's a Dark Lord. The first Dark Lord. He looks like a boss in a Final Fantasy game.
The important thing is, it's not the Dragius.
I guess so.
At some point, I need to make a rant video about
Starting with the first game he appeared in, Melee, Ganondorf's road into
I mean, you
Smash
can.
was
There's probably
an
someone
extremely
now, listen.
strange one. As you most likely know, Melee was held together by a thin layer of saliva that director Masahiro Sakurai applied at the last possible second to keep the game from leaking out of TVs. Melee's development was insanely rushed, and so much was left on the cutting room floor. In order to give the roster a bit more of a boost because it was honestly looking a bit paltry, characters were copied, altered slightly, and given a whole new coat of paint. These were the clone characters, or at least they were, up until the successful gaslighting campaign got us calling them Echo Fighters. See, these are Echo Fighters because everybody hates them.
They're slightly
these
different.
Aren't Echo Fighters because I said so. Marth switched teams to become Roy, they dragged out Pikachu's baby photos for Pichu. Mario took a 3-week online course to become Dr. Mario. It all makes sense. Then came the manner of Ganondorf. He wasn't a character planned to be in the game, but was added near the 11th hour since he was pretty popular and because of his resemblance to another character in the game.
Really?
Oh,
who was it?
So probably like a Bowser or someone, where you can just slap Beast Ganon over him, right? And then the Vroom Vroom Man showed up. Yeah, because Ganondorf and Captain Falcon of all people had similar builds, the decision was made to slap him in his roster fluff as a Captain Falcon clone.
Wow.
This would have long-lasting effects on Ganondorf as a character, but as he was
Really?
was less a detriment and more really weird. Instead of doing anything reminiscent of Ganondorf's main appearance in Ocarina of Time, or even pulling on Beast Ganon for inspiration, Ganondorf instead has the same moveset as a part-time bounty hunter, part-time race car driver, full-time dead meme. In a series as dedicated as Smash Bros. Is to presenting its characters as faithfully as possible to their source game, this incarnation of Ganondorf is a big sore thumb in how essentially it's a different guy. It isn't a massive deal when it comes to playability, but something about having Ganondorf like this makes him feel so soulless. That soullessness carries over to the announcer.
Mario! Young Link! Ice Climbers! Ganondorf.
He clearly
This
hates
is why you
this guy.
bribe the announcer.
So what about his moveset
Someone
in
told
this
me
game?
this, yeah. Even the announcer
listen,
doesn't
I
like
just told you, Captain
Ganondorf.
Falcon. Almost every single one of Ganondorf's moves is a flat copy and paste of Falcon's. Sure, stuff like his jab, forward tilt, and forward air
really
are modified,
is.
and if you're gonna drop any part of Falcon's moveset, the knee would not be high on my list, but other than that, everything else was the same. Even his specials where you could afford to get more creative were carbon copies. The Falcon Punch became the Warlock Punch. Falcon Kick was now Wizard's Foot. Raptor
Wizard's
Fist was
Foot.
now Gerudo Dragon.
Yes, you
so
plan
what
to get in your dick.
fundamental differences were there between Ganondorf and Captain Falcon that you weren't just selecting the same character from a different slot? Well, that comes down to the two things that defined Ganondorf's entire playstyle for the rest of Smash's lifespan. He's super strong and super slow. Ganondorf's movement speed compared to Falcon is absolutely gutted, in some cases decreasing by nearly half of Falcon's speed. Now, comparing most characters to Falcon in terms of speed is pretty unfair, but when that speed puts him as the 4th slowest in terms of walking speed, 6th slowest in terms of dash speed, and 3rd slowest in terms of air speed, it's a massive hit. Compared to Falcon, he has the 4th highest jump speed in the game and fastest dash period. However, for as slow as he moves, he hits just as hard. His strength is incredible. Almost every move he has access to is just a stronger version of what Falcon can do. This makes up for Ganondorf's slow movement speed and how he may not land as many hits, but the ones he does hurt like hell. And while his attack speed on the ground may be, his attack speed in the air is outrageous. Ganondorf's aerial game is deceptively good, with his attacks coming out way faster than they do on the ground, and having a crazy high attack power for aerials. It's in the air that we get to see without a doubt Ganondorf's best and most defining move, the Stomp. Ganondorf's down air is not just the strongest aerial in the game, but it's the one with the ability to meteor smash somebody to the top of the stage, changing the opponent
he
from
can
a
just
deadly
straight up
warrior
get them
into a
down
buckyball in no
anytime.
time flat. It's while in the air that we also get to talk about the more competitive side of Melee. L canceling is a technique where by pressing L within 7 frames of landing, you get to cancel out the animation and be ready to follow up. This is good for most characters in the game, but for Ganondorf, it is absolutely required. Ganondorf has so much ending lag on almost all of his moves that even though they're really strong, they leave him as a sitting duck. The minute amount of time gained by L canceling may be small, but to a Sheik player, that's enough time to do full combo. Whatever Ganondorf can get, he'll take, and as such, he's the character that benefits the most from L canceling. So, with all that said, how does Ganondorf fare in the unforgiving world of competitive Melee?
How?
Honestly, Better than you'd think.
Really?
Roller coaster emergency brakes don't deliver the sort of whiplash that's seen Ganondorf as the 8th best character in the game gives.
Wow.
Before you say it's because he stole Falcon's skeleton and was using that to scum wins, there were a substantial amount of tier lists where Ganondorf was ranked above Falcon. Why is that?
Oh.
Nobody knew what he was doing. See, this is the benefit of being cursed with the clone character tag. You're similar to your base character,
But different enough?
similar. Roy is not a note-for-note copy of Marth, Pichu is not a note-for-note copy of Pikachu, and
Yeah.
Ganondorf isn't a note-for-note copy of Captain Falcon. They're different in just the right way that people can't exactly rely on previous matchup information to take a win.
Oh.
People going in expecting to fight a slower Captain Falcon were rocked when they figured out that he hit substantially harder and wasn't nearly as slow as people thought when it came to those impressive aerial
Yep.
attacks.
Damn.
Ganondorf is a far cry from the no-hoper we all know and love from Brawl forward. He had legitimately good combos, good moves, hitboxes, throws. Sure, his recovery might as well have sent him downward for how helpful it was, but imagine having flaws where your character doesn't do everything perfectly.
Oh, Meta
Ganondorf
Knight.
excelled in the early days of Melee, as his success was
Yeah.
entirely related to the time of his
I heard he
release.
ain't doing
See,
well.
the world sucked in 2002. You couldn't figure out which celebrity pissed themselves most recently at a moment's notice, and
Sounds about
matchup
right.
data was hard to come by. You'd have to turn off all the other electronics in your house just to look up if Ganondorf was even in the game. Everyone had an inkling that characters like Fox, Sheik, Marth, and Captain Falcon were the top dogs, and as such, people would get tons of experience in how to fight them. Conversely, the fact that not as many people played Ganondorf meant that when he did show up, you basically had to learn on the fly what to do against
Yeah, that
him.
happens with Dan
Sure, you
Hibiki
could
these
translate
days.
some Falcon
People
knowledge
play
into the
Dan
matchup,
Hibiki?
but what if you were playing
Yeah,
for something
because you know what
that
the
was
greatest weapon in
slightly
his arsenal
altered
is?
in Ganondorf?
What?
If he
The belief he's supposed to be bad.
Wait, what? Oh, I get.
He's a bit lower than normal, but he's not nearly as much of a joke as people think he is.
Nowadays, I guess, because I remember it was fun.
Even back then,
His big
you
attack.
know how to
being-
use him. He doesn't have piss poor range, but actually pretty respectable damage.
Huh.
And no one thinks to practice against Dan.
That is a good point. Weird thought. I never thought Dan Hibiki of all people. He was originally supposed to be a joke, I think, making fun of, what was it, King of Fighters?
King of Fighters, yeah. Or maybe Fatal Fury. It's the same universe.
It's somewhere in there, but yeah.
Art of Fighting, perhaps.
Maybe there's a lot of Street Fighter clones.
SNK has too many. Well, no, all three of those are part of the same universe. They're all SNK titles.
Oh. Huh. Didn't know that. Anyway, back into it.
hit harder. One of his moves had more ending lag. Spoiler,
Oh.
these were both always true, and those differences opened up windows for Ganondorf to get to work.
Oh.
So then why did Ganondorf dip down in the rankings as more lists were released? It's not like we were in any danger of getting a patch. Well, time was moving forward as it does
People were
every now and
training.
again,
They
and
learned.
the stories of Ganondorf stealing games he absolutely shouldn't have became more and more well known. Footage of
Yeah.
high-level Ganondorf
People
play
started to
became
realize
available
that they
more
needed to
people,
train.
and counterplay was developed. Sure, I've been trying to
Figure
downplay
out
it as
kind-
much as possible, but Ganondorf's speed issues weren't suddenly non-existent. Comparing his movement to someone like Fox reveals he's
Oh,
woefully
Fox is
outclassed.
super
And in a game like
fast.
Smash, where you constantly
Yep.
need to be on the move to account for your opponent, Ganondorf's speed kneecaps him hard. Even with wave dashing, Ganondorf struggles to make up
Almost as
ground,
much as his
especially against the entire rest of the roster. In a
Oh.
similar vein, there's just more Ganondorf to hit. He's a fair bit bigger
Yeah,
than
he's
most of the
bigger
rest
than
of the
everyone.
cast, and as a result means that it's just easier to land hits on him. Compare Pikachu to Ganondorf and realize that the world is not made for tall people. However, it's not the quality of the character,
Then I will
it's
remake
the
the world.
pilot. And Ganondorf mains are built
Please
different,
do.
as in they have the
That
blueprints
hurts.
upside down. The two most famous Ganondorf players from Melee were two sides of the same coin, Kage and Bizarro Flame. Kage represented the technical side of Ganondorf. He understood exactly how to wring the most value out of what Ganondorf brought to the table. He was at one time the 34th best player in the world, with only Ganondorf, and took down who at the time was considered the best player in the world,
Damn.
Mango. The celebration is exactly what you would expect for what was a Formula One race car driver losing to a broken down Pinto. Let's put it
Oh.
like this. It was the performance of Kage and fellow Ganon stalwart Linguini that convinced people that he had a winning matchup against Falco. This is a report from friggin' Loodyland. This is Minecraft
Yeah.
Steve having a losing matchup against the Sandbag. Bizarro Flame was the dickhead side of Ganondorf. He played in a time where Ganondorf's weaknesses were all well known. He's a slow piece of crap that hits like a boat crash. Despite that, he would consistently rank super high for playing a mid-tier character like Ganondorf, often ranking in the top 100 players in the world. His skill was one thing, but his playstyle and theatrics were what pushed him over the top to become so successful. He would win with warlock punches, create videos of Ganondorf ice
He was
skating
ready
to show
for
off his
them.
movement options, and even brought the game of disrespecting your opponent to a whole new level.
And when you heard that Eichelman would be taking his spot, what then did you think? Easy money!
I'm amazed this man
He
was
was
never
a
hit with a chair, but I'm glad he wasn't.
Yeah, you always need one person like this. You always need one. It makes everyone else fight harder, doesn't it?
Yep.
Everyone
You don't want to be the person who lost to this guy.
Exactly. And I feel like that's why he's doing it a bit. So that
He is
they...
employing the ancient tactics of Musashi, known as being a general jackass.
He's doing this so that they'll fight harder. So that they'll prove their worth to him in one
Doing
way
this
or
is going to
another.
be off balance.
Yeah, that is also another way to do it. It does kind of drive people off balance.
A habitual line stepper, and frustratingly was good enough to get away with it. Bizarro may have had one of the greatest minds for the metagame of Smash, where even if he wasn't as good or played with somebody who knew all of Ganondorf's counters, are they really going to be able to focus with the entire crowd on his side? He took
True.
tactics from pro wrestling and applied it to Smash Bros. Was
Yeah.
he a better Ganon main than Kage? Well, he would have been if he didn't lose to Kage 5 games in a row, but he
Ooh.
solidified Ganondorf's reputation. He's an underdog,
You know,
obviously.
they
But
both know him
he could
well,
also
so
win.
it's...
He was above a Bowser or a Kirby because there was a real chance he could actually win, while still wearing his low-tier status like a medal. All you need to do is hear a crowd chanting Ganondorf's name to get the vibe the character puts out.
Oh.
Inside each and every one of us.
The warrior. Now,
They're
question.
really yelling out Ganondorf? Wow.
The announcer's not going to do it.
Of course not. But the people in the background are. God damn.
But do you hear this chanting one?
Overall, Ganondorf was an extremely viable character early on into Melee's lifespan, having tons of neat tricks and legitimate bombs that could not only steal wins, but
still, they're both
convincingly
really
take
good at the
entire
character,
games.
it shows.
As time rolled on, people learned what Ganondorf mains were up to and started to learn how to counter, with the main strategy being, don't be hit by him, something that the faster characters excelled at. Even
Don't
with
be
this
hit.
dip by the latter half of Melee's lifespan, Ganondorf is easily at his best in Melee, pretty much at the middle of the pack as Melee's 14th best character. We would never see these lofty heights again.
Suavemente. Bésame.
What?
Que quiero sentir tus labios
Wait,
Oh,
besándome
no,
otra
that-
vez.
No, I know this meme.
Suavemente. Bésame. Que
Yes,
quiero
it's
sentir tus labios
I think
besándome
it's a
otra
dumb
vez.
meme.
Suave.
Oh,
I love it.
oh God, oh no, it's a disaster. Save for
Whoa.
Jigglypuff, which is a whole different can of worms, there have been very few characters to ever take a hit like Ganondorf did in the transition from Melee to Brawl. Most often, characters who are bad stay bad for the rest of their lives. Little Mac is never going to be top tier, and that's fine, but to drop from a middle tier character to undisputed worst in the game is next level embarrassing. So with
Yeah.
Brawl having the exact opposite problem from Melee, that being
Lucario.
too much development time, you think that they would take Ganondorf, a character included at the last minute as fluff, and rework him, retool him, and refine him into something that represented the character.
Yeah.
How about you're lucky he got in at all? While not a
Oh.
late-stage inclusion like before, Ganondorf was still on shaky ground, as his fellow clone classmates like Dr. Mario and Pichu were all culled this time around, a lot of them not coming back until Smash 4 and Ultimate. Ganondorf could stay, sure, but not as the Ganondorf we were hoping for. Instead of changing him up to be more of his own man, Ganondorf stayed the same as he was in Melee for the
Oh,
most part.
damn.
Heavier, stronger Falcon. But seeing as Falcon himself plummeted all the way to the depths of unplayability in Brawl, his carbon copy wasn't much better off. No bones about it, Ganondorf is the worst character in the game by a comfortable margin. There's a great argument to be made that Brawl Ganondorf is the worst Smash character ever made. First off is the model swap. The shift from Ocarina of Time Ganondorf to Twilight Princess Ganondorf seems innocuous, but you have to
Yeah.
take into account that
One of
this
the hardest
Ganondorf
events for
is a
me
brick house.
was the
He's
one where you had to
big
fight
and
Pit
he's
Zelda
wide.
and Link with Ganondorf. Because Ganondorf's really fucking bad.
Damn. But yeah, this was Twilight Princess Ganondorf, very clear.
Problems that Ganondorf had with absorbing damage due to his size was made even worse. Another
Oh.
fundamental change between Melee and Brawl was the removal of L canceling. Along with wave dashing, these features were intentionally left out of the game to close the super wide gap between competitive and casual Smash.
That's
While
not
to
how
the
that
average
works.
character this
Really.
stung but was ultimately fine, this took away Ganondorf's one good option. Without L canceling, Ganondorf's air game, the main reason to play the character, was gone, and in its place, oh my god, he's just so slow. Ganondorf
Oh,
is
dear.
the slowest character in the game overall,
Yeah.
right next to Jigglypuff. He can't get
Ooh.
anywhere with any amount of quickness, and in the time it takes him to get from one side of the stage to the other, you could finish a full set. In a game where the top tiers are the hoo-ha, the ass boy, and the dream, speed is vitally important, and Ganondorf
The
might as well have been
demon.
playing with lead weights in his pants. He can't jump high, meaning his bad recovery was even worse, and his combo game suffered. His range was crippled, meaning that he had to work even harder to get in despite not having the speed to accomplish that. But this all had to be leading up to something, right? Like, all
No.
this talk about what Ganondorf lost has to be in service of
No.
his damage output, right? We all
They
know that
decrease his
Ganondorf
damage.
hits hard, so all these debuffs must be to make up for how hard he's gonna hit, right? They nerfed his damage.
Oh.
Overall, Ganondorf's main moves do significantly less damage to the point that his power, the reason you'd want to play him now that the aerials were out of the question, is only a little more
Yeah.
impressive than average.
This
Look at
doesn't
how they
matter now.
massacred his aerial attacks. His forward air doesn't even do anything anymore. Where
They
all that
decreased
power
all
went
of
was
it.
into some of his worst moves.
Yep.
His up tilt got significantly buffed. Oh yeah, that move I started charging a week ago. Let's see how it's going. Yep, still charging. He has the strongest
I
forward
hate
throw in
that
the
move
game,
so
but his grab
Oh,
is
dear
the
God.
worst in the game, so he can't ever use it. His horizontal airspeed has been increased, so now he's only the 8th slowest in that regard.
Ooh.
I'm getting that put on my birthday cake. You're probably asking, is there any out-and-out positive to Ganondorf's new moveset?
Yeah.
Well, there's one. Down air's the best in the game, baby. It's
Oh.
Ganondorf's only good move. It does good damage, it's possible to hit somebody with it, and can lead to a caveman's version of a combo. Along with that, the
Caveman's
Gerudo
version
Dragon
of
was
a
swapped
combo.
out for one of Ganondorf's only unique moves, the Flame Choke. Along with the unanimous agreement
Oh.
that he was the worst character in the game, Flame Choke solidified Ganondorf's meme status in the Smash community. Instead
Oh.
of knocking the opponent up like the dragon did, Flame Choke grabs the opponent and sends them directly down. Whether there's a stage there to stop them is all up to Ganondorf.
Ah.
This move, in a breaking of traditions for Ganondorf, has positives and negatives. It's consistent, meaning you can hit it over and over again in sequence and call it a combo to piss off anybody hit by it. It travels a good distance, does solid damage, sets up other moves like the stomps, but for negatives, it's stupid easy to
I
read.
think the important thing
the
is he
giant
brought Dragon
green
Roost
man is
Island to the
rocketing.
game in his track
Well, he
record.
doesn't have much
Towards
else he
me with
can
a
do.
flaming death hand. Should I A, stand motionless and let him hit me? B, jump off the stage?
He
in
doesn't have much
recognition of
else
his
he
overwhelming
can
power?
do,
Or
so it
C,
makes sense that they would try to.
move. Who could have thought? Just throwing the move out more often than not will lead to you getting killed. But what if the move more often than not led to you getting killed when you meant it? Ganonside is the great addition to Ganondorf's toolkit from Brawl.
Yeah.
Not in terms of competitive viability, usually dying is seen as a suboptimal move in a fight, but the
dying.
idea as Ganondorf as the king of garbage. His moves are bad, he's as slow as molasses, he can't hit you, and he absorbs damage like a sponge. So imagine how bad it makes you look to be the guy who lost to him.
Yeah.
Ganondorf may be bad, the worst character in the game.
So if you
but
lost
the
to him,
buttons
you're
on your
even
opponent's
worse.
Controllers still work, and they do things. So if you treat Ganondorf like a layup, it's entirely
He's basically
likely you
treated
just
as the
get
troll
destroyed without
character.
ever realizing what happened. It only takes a few sloppy moves or missed attacks for Ganondorf to close gaps with frightening speed. Taking on a halfway decent Ganondorf is like fighting a dream. Nothing about it is going to feel like it actually happened. Whether it be how easy the fight was, how one-sided your sustained and brutal beating was, or the part where he starts flying. Ganondorf actually benefited from the glitches in Brawl and how his hitboxes made a negative sense. Getting hit with the
Negative
waft of the
sense.
wizard kick was as deadly as the kick itself, his up smash seemingly booted your aura in the jaw, or when you perform a hyper-specific input that sends Ganondorf rocketing into the sky to kill you. Make no
What
mistake,
the hell?
none of this was enough to save him in the eyes of players. Ganondorf's major competitive successes in Brawl practically don't exist thanks to the fact that the metagame was faster than light, with Satan himself sitting on top of the throne. Anubis was the only noteworthy Ganondorf player from the time, and even then, it wasn't any major success. I mean, he beat the world's best Snake player with him, but unlike last time, it wasn't enough to trick people into thinking he was a competitively viable character. Ganondorf as a low tier in Brawl is the worst place he's ever been, because unlike...
Did you know that Snake actually has an uneven matchup against himself?
Really?
Yeah, due to how the game calculates explosion damage, player 1 Snake has an advantage over player 2 Snake.
Well then. That's weird.
Because he can let grenades go off in his face while grappling the opponent, and he'll take no damage.
Previous Smash games where low tiers were goofy idiots who didn't function, like Game & Watch having a shield that doesn't protect him. Brawl's low tiers aren't funny bad, they're sad bad. Characters like Zelda feeling like every move was designed by a different person, with way too many finishers but no setup, or Jigglypuff being a shell of her former self, Ganondorf's wacky and near useless moveset was different and found an audience that appreciated him for what he was, a bottom-of-the-barrel game scummer. Ganondorf was weirdly both unpredictable and painfully easy to read, underestimated and way overhyped. He is everything, and at the same time, he's nothing. While the story of Ganondorf, the competitively viable character, died in Brawl, what was born was the legend of Ganondorf, low-tier king. The leap from Melee to Brawl was a leap between a smooth summer drive and a 20-car pileup. The leap from Brawl to Smash 4 was a leap from a 20-car pileup to a 20-car pileup, but everybody gets a cool hat. Ganondorf himself didn't change majorly from Brawl to 4, but he did manage to avoid being the worst character in the game this time around, and that's largely down to the game itself changing to suit Ganondorf. Don't let anybody tell you that that lie wasn't a stone-cold fact. Thanks to the fundamental changes in how combos work in Smash 4, Ganondorf had more combo capabilities.
So I did watch a video where they basically said, yeah, the only reason Pip is in here is because Sakurai worked on Kid Icarus Uprising. Because...
Okay, but Pip was in Brawl.
Yeah, because Sakurai. Or that's what someone told me.
Uprising didn't come out for years after Brawl.
I don't know how he got in then.
Because they always pick one retro character to redesign and update for the hell of it.
Huh. Now that
that's how Ice Climbers got in. Like, nowadays, yes, Pit's Arsenal is pretty much entirely just Uprising.
Yeah.
And that's how Palutena and Dark Pit got in, definitely.
Of options thanks to revisions in how shields and shield stun work, and best of all, the rage mechanic meant that his power went through the roof. See, in Smash 4, everybody is Lucario. A perfect roster. And the longer they stayed in the fight with high damage, the stronger and harder they hit. Now take into account how Ganondorf spends the whole game being beaten up, and you can see how this benefits his already stupidly high stopping power. This ended up being the perfect storm for Ganondorf, as he managed to carve out a niche.
Bayonetta was in here for some reason.
It wasn't a good or viable one, but it was a niche. When you combine his improved combos, higher damage output, and Ganon-side tactics from the Brawl days, and then couple that with the fact that competitive Smash went to a 2-stock meta, which nobody liked, Ganondorf now had a plan. Throw as many bombs as possible in the early game to score a quick KO, and then kill both yourself and your opponent. Ganondorf's ability to score an early KO at low percentages meant that he was good at applying pressure and changing the game of Smash from a back and forth to a speedrun trying to kill Ganondorf before he killed you. Ganondorf excelled at preying on your weaknesses and slip-ups. You thought you were hot stuff? Better prove it, because the second Ganondorf catches a mistake, he can turn everything around. Again, this strategy stinks and was better done by characters like Kirby, DDD, or Bowser if F tier doesn't sound fun to you. See, at a basic level, I don't think that Ganondorf's playstyle exactly works in a game like Smash. Heavyweights are fine, but when Smash is a platform fighter, and you have a character who can't platform, you have to rely a lot more on that fighter side, and Ganondorf also doesn't impress there. It's the same reason Little Mac has always been low tier. If you look at Smash
Little Mac can't run around a lot.
Games, Pikachu, Fox, Meta Knight, Bayonetta, they all have amazing mobility and the chance to pick when they battle.
But when you get a straight up fight, you're kind of screwed.
They're on you like a cheap suit. If they don't like it, they can keep their distance and choose to fight only when they have the advantage. Look at a character like Snake. If he has the advantage, he can just come in with strong dash attacks, smashes, and aerials. If he doesn't like the situation, he can just stay back and peppers explosives to force the opponent into a situation he's favored in. Ganondorf,
doesn't
meanwhile,
have that
is
option.
forced to close the gap
No,
because
he
just
is.
sitting there leaves him vulnerable to projectiles, which he has no counter for. And when he's as bad at closing said gap as he is, it's impossible to not feel like he's playing a different game. Ganondorf's main gap-closing options are the Flame Choke and Wizard's Foot, but those both leave him helpless due to their high ending lag, and in that time the opponent's either going to reposition or more likely punish your approach. In concept, Ganondorf has a good idea for a playstyle: control the center of the stage and push the opponent out until they're out of options. That's good and reflective of what Ganondorf should play like, a big bully. But if Ganondorf controls just this part of the stage, guess how much that leaves for the opponent? Yeah, that's right, it's all of it! And if Ganondorf tries to tread there, suddenly the bully is the one being knocked around. Not to mention that at any time, the other player can just mug Ganondorf and leave him helpless. He needs to be able to close the gap and hit his opponent, but in the state he's in, he can't. All that power without the ability to get in makes it worthless. Hello and welcome to the Goo Goo Corner, where we talk about things that aren't hyper serious and not silly competitive Smash. You'll notice I've left blocks in front of you with letters on them to entertain yourselves. But notice I have arranged them in a way where you cannot spell the word sex. We're gonna be talking about Ganondorf's custom moves, which feel like a million years ago, but were really cool and I'm sad didn't come back. The Warlock Punch can become the Warlock's Blade and Thrust, with a faster windup and shield-breaking sweet spot for the blade, and better vertical range for the thrust. Of the three, Blade is the best one because it has the ability to have Ganondorf deal damage without being up the enemy's nose. Also, the tip can break shields in one hit. The Flame Choke can become the Flame Wave or Flame Chain, with the wave launching the opponent upwards at the cost of having more starting and ending lag, as well as being weaker overall. The chain, however, never grabs and instead dashes through the opponent, which makes for a move great at applying pressure to a shielding opponent, something that Ganondorf has historically struggled with. This may make it the best of the three, but since it can't grab, you can't get inside with it, so it sucks. His Dark Dive is replaced with the Dark Fists and Vault. Dark Fists replaces the grab with 2 upward punches, which leads to fantastic damage, while still recovering better than the Dark Dive. Dark Vault stinks. And finally, the Wizard's Foot becomes the Wizard's Assault and Drop Kick. Assault is the fastest and pierces through enemies, allowing for mix-ups, but has a very obvious startup and tons of ending lag. Meanwhile, the Drop Kick should just be what Ganondorf's regular down B is. It gives him a great tool for closing the gap and approaching the enemy while still dealing good damage, and even helps with recoveries off stage. The fact it wasn't made the default is proof that nobody remembered custom moves existed after the first time you used them. And don't think I didn't notice you tried to use the Z block in place of an S. Yeah, you spelled the Zex. Good job. And finally, our last stop is
Zex Marquis.
Ganondorf is up to most of his usual tricks, but importantly, there are some big differences.
He's got a big sword
For starter,
now.
They replaced his Twilight Princess design with the old Ocarina design. Oh, so Ike gets Twink Ike and Big Boy Ike, but we only get one Ganondorf? Well, how about we take a little something from you, Ike, huh?
I like Ike.
Ganondorf has received the first piece of a moveset that actually resembles Ganondorf in several of his smash attacks now involving his massive sword from Ocarina of Time. As I said, a lot of these are filled in from Ike, but it's not hard to argue that Ganondorf does them better.
He's doing the
He didn't get
Toria.
to take any of his custom moves from 4 and
Cloud
in
was
their
there
place. Instead,
for
we got a
some reason.
Ganondorf that looked more like Melee than ever before. His aerials were much faster and were able to be spammed a lot more easily. This gave Ganondorf combos for the first time in about a decade and a half that weren't Flame Choke, rinse and repeat. Then there's the sword. This is a blessing to Ganondorf. It isn't much more than his old smashes, but the range feels like it stretches on forever, and the large sweeping motions meant that he could cover so much more ground and keep his positioning. However, the same old problems rear their ugly head as Ganondorf is still too slow to make the best of these additions. Now, that means not as much in Ultimate as it does in the rest of the games because the cast is a lot more balanced than it used to be, but still, he's not at the top end. Not at the bottom, though! Thanks, Little Mac. Look at it like this. In Smash, you're either winning or you're losing. There is no middle ground. Good characters have plans both if they're the one applying pressure or having pressure applied to them. Ganondorf characters are great if you're beating the opponent senseless, but less good when you're on the receiving end. He can push advantage when he's in control, but he just doesn't have a way to take it back. If you're being rolled by Ganondorf, there's no stopping him. If Ganondorf is being rolled, there's no stopping it. That's reflected in Ganondorf's offstage game. If he's offstage because he wants to be, it's to deliver a massive stomp or similar spike to take someone out way sooner than they should have been taken out.
Yeah.
If he's offstage because he's forced to be, he's already dead because there's nothing in him to get back on the stage. And that's kind of built into the character of Ganondorf from his very bone marrow, that he's meant to be winning at all times, to the point that he doesn't have any tools to help him get there. It's like he's just supposed to start in this state of immediate dominance that he just can't reach. Now, all this can sound like it's too focused on Ganondorf as a competitive character, and that's mainly because I can't exactly speak to everybody's individual experiences with the character. Somebody listening to this probably has a friend who terrorizes them with warlock punches. Ganondorf at his best was a mid-tier character that could keep up with the bottom end of top tier. Ganondorf at his worst was laughed out of F tier, but weirdly, it was at his lowest low that the Ganondorf community was at their strongest. He can be a terrifying Iron Wall or the goofiest scrub lord in the world, and people love him for that. There's one thing you can never call a Ganondorf match, and that's boring. A Ganondorf match is going to be a fast, one-sided death match, and seeing who's the one about to die is half the enjoyment. He's the epitome of a for-fun character with the most ride-or-die fandom of the whole roster. Ganondorf is a fan favorite, a crowd pleaser. When somebody busts out Ganondorf, you know you're in for a special match. Is this guy being serious? Does he know how to play Ganondorf, or is he just picking Ganondorf because it's Ganondorf? Does he secretly hate his opponent and this is how he's choosing to display it? Sometimes that's exactly what you want from an opponent, somebody who isn't going to take the game too seriously. If you're in the mood to fight a sweaty tryhard, you're not hard up for finding people like that. But if you want to find somebody who's just there to have a good time, Ganondorf's your man.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Ganondorf will never be a competitive character. Heck, I think it's fair to say he'll never even be a good character, but he's just so much fun. Not even in the sense of a fun video game. Oftentimes, you're not going to have a lot of fun being beaten pillar to post. Ganondorf is a fun experience for everybody to go through. You're not going to get spammed or infinitely comboed by Ganondorf. He's physically incapable of doing that. The worst you're gonna get is a flame choke off stage, but at that point, Ganondorf just died too, so how can you not have fun? His best strategy is to kill himself. That's what you're gonna get upset over? What I'm saying not only applies to Ganondorf, but all low-tier characters. They're bad, but they're all the better for it. They can't win, but that doesn't mean you're gonna stop trying. They can't do what the rest of the cast does, but so what? We'll just do what we do better than everybody else. Low-tier characters are vital for a fighting game, as sometimes you don't want a skill-intensive matchup or to build a new stage midway through a match. Sometimes you just want to
have some fun.
Forward an A.
He has a capacity to give you that L.
There's the capacity to be great in the right player's hands and the capacity to be terrible in the wrong player's hands.
He has the capacity to be mid enough that, well, that one slip-up wins. I think great is a bit overselling it.
Either way, if you guys like what we're reacting to, then, you know, I always say this, get up to like 500 views or higher, and we'll probably do another one of Bumble McFumbles.
500 miles and I will walk 500 more.
The reason why I say this is because, well, when my views are really low, I kind of lose, like, it tells me you guys don't want me to look at that stuff. Which is why I think you guys should like, comment, subscribe to encourage me to keep watching certain stuff. But yeah, you get my point overall. That's mostly why some things get lower priority. Some things get lower priority also because they are whole hour videos, so, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. And take care of yourselves.